Hello and welcome. I think I'm going to do Divine Masculine check-in. I'm definitely feeling the collective there. And maybe we'll include Divine Feminine, I'm not sure. Sometimes I just know that I need to do a reading and I'm not sure what about. But I'm going to do this, and I think I'll do an all signs, and hopefully I'll get to all the signs for the next 48 hours again. But we'll see. Go with the flow, right? Empress energy. Anyways, there's 3 songs that have been playing in my head, which are interesting too, because like a lot of times a song will come to me that I haven't heard in ages, but it'll kind of fit with my mood. And these ones don't necessarily fit with my mood. I've been in a really good place for the most part. And so I know that it's more likely to be divine, divine masculines, and I would assume, being in the collective of divine feminines, that most of us are feeling pretty similar. I know that there are a couple different collectives. That's interesting, but the main song is "Nobody Knows It But Me," like that. It's that song about just being so wrapped up in pain, and masculine missing his feminine and keeping his mouth shut about it, and nobody knows it but him. Which it does also suggest some more hermit energy, which makes sense for all the Virgo. The other one is Unbreak My Heart. Say you love me again, right? And the other one, oh, come back to me. Oh, what's love got to do with it? Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? Right? Tina Turner. Love me some Tina Turner. I wish I could sing like Tina Turner. But those are the 3 songs. And it's interesting, if you put them together on that, what do we have? Nobody Knows It But Me, Unbreak My Heart, and What's Love Got to Do with It, right? So, like, put those together. Like, if those are coming from the divine masculine collective, if I'm right, and most of you who will watch this are, I mean, maybe you're not like super happy, but you're feeling pretty grateful. You've been working on your self healing. You've been doing pretty good. Money's flowing in a little bit, as you know, as predicted in the readings I did with divine masculine and divine feminine coming up, and others have. Then those are coming mostly from our divine masculines, and that suggests they're kind of in that last bit of energy to, they're still trying to keep their feelings to themselves. They're probably, especially with the Pisces full moon energy, they're probably no longer hiding from themselves that they have feelings for their divine feminines. They might have even, I mean, being that we just made it through 9/9 and 9/11, I can almost guarantee that most of them that have been wrapped up in karmic situations have been talking about you. One way or another. Oh, wow, that's funny. Another song. One way or another, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna get you one way. Maybe next day, right? I always end up butchering those lyrics after a while because I don't know. Which that, actually, what's funny, that song came to me yesterday when I was talking with a client about karmic energy. Her divine masculine's karmic had been reaching out to her to try to intimidate her and stuff like that. And so, I mean, and then that song started playing on the radio. So I almost, it's funny because that song can be, that can be from masculines. Like, you know, there's been a lot of predictions of masculines, especially those who have formerly been very like fearful avoidant and been like, oh well, if you're not going to respond to my little breadcrumbs, then I give up. I guess I'm just not worthy of love. I might as well blow it all up. And they're growing up, and they're recognizing the value in pursuit of the right feminine, because a lot of them have been put through the ringer by feminines that played hard to get, not because they really had, I mean, their feelings were genuine, but they were trying to manipulate them, or they weren't mature enough to really have a real relationship, even if they got what they wanted, and it was like never enough. Like, even if the masculines did what they wanted more and more and more and more. And so these masculines started to learn, like, you don't pursue You don't pursue, you play hard to get yourself. They got into toxic femininity in that way. But they're starting to recognize, especially for those of you divine femmes that were with them before and pursued them in the past, and in a healthy way, in a romantic way, you actually left an impression on them that there is such a thing as romantic pursuit, and sometimes it is valuable to say, you know what, one way or another, my dear, I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you to fall in love with me again. Or I'm going to get you to at least trust me because I know that you already love me. But do be careful because karmic energy is all over the place. I've been feeling it, especially from the 5D. I have a sneaking suspicion that my DM has been blocking karmic energy from coming towards me, which actually is good because that's some of his karma, because he was not the type to really do that much before. And not that I need it, but it was definitely one of those moral integrity things. And unfortunately, as much as I tried to warn him early on about this kind of stuff being a part of his karma and tried to say, hey, I can be a sorcery of letting you know what's likely to come, he didn't listen. But it's fine because sometimes lessons are better learned that way. And I'm kind of amused too. You know what? I will make this a Divine Masculine, Divine Feminine collective. There's actually a reading that I suggest. Divine Maverick did it, and it's something like "You'll be called a witch" or something like that. She did it, I want to say 5 or 6 months ago, and I had to laugh. I had to go back and look at it because some of my friends in the Divine Feminine collective were joking about how, like, there's especially some karmic energy, but even my DM when he's in karmic energy are very much like acting like I've got some crazy plan to enlighten him and then he'll totally fall in love with me, or like because I'm pagan and very open spiritually and I listen to spirit and I have my, as he calls it, creepy spiritual practices, that I must be I must have some plan. And I've been listening to some readings that, like, now he hasn't said this, but there's been readings that have been talking about how like, instead of recognizing I have no plan, I'm actually been for the last 9 months learning to release control, to not need to plan things, to not, letting that anxious attachment go. I'm just listening to spirit. Like, I'm just allowing it to come to me. I'm speaking what I see, things like that. Like, I'm not, this isn't my plan, this is spirit's plan. And, like, yeah, I want to manifest some things, but I'm not doing any spell work to do it. That violates free will, and I do not want that karma. So there's no reason for me to do that. But I find it so interesting because some of my divine feminine friends were joking with me about, like, oh yes, you're such a horrible, evil witch, being kind and stuff. And even if you were doing it even if you were doing something intentionally, oh my goodness, you want to enlighten people. Ooh, like you want to get them to think about their thinking. Such a witch. And it reminded me of Divine Maverick's video about they'll call you a witch. And that does often happen. So I'm kind of getting the sense that a fair amount of divine feminines, you might be seeing that, especially with all the Pluto and Saturn energy going on, and the cardinal grand cross going on, and the influence of the Pisces full moon that came up, which will continue to affect us for until at least January. And it's revealing, it's bringing clarity. It's there's been a lot of gaslighting on all ends since, in fact, since the full moon in Virgo this year. And what's funny is, like, I didn't even see it at first, but when the truth starts to get shown, actually, like, typically you think about, well, it's going to uncover the masks of people that are being deceitful, but seeing the truth can also mean seeing those around you who are magical, those around you who are healers, those around you who are authentic and things like that. Oh, I just had a crow fly down. Oh, he looks like he's had... it's funny, he looks like the crow that all the other crows pick on. It's okay, baby. He might be molting, but Um, you know, I remember we used to have a cockatiel named April that our other bird Squeak, who is, gosh, he's almost 35 years old. He's outlasted all the other birds, but he used to pick and pick and pick at April, and she had this like bald halo looking spot on her head, which I think maybe that's the relevance of it. Interesting. A halo on a crow, and crows are the keepers of the cosmic laws and karmic laws, and they're also, there's some great indigenous myths about them. And if you look at their feathers when they're up close, they're actually not black. And they have a rainbow sheen on them. So I don't know what's significant for you in that. I also did a video about crow feathers and crow totems and some of their meanings, but maybe halos, crows, um, molting could even be, they could be a lot of that. This is the time of year when most animals start to, lose their summer plumage or fur or things like that and start to get in their their winter wear, and humans tend to do that too. And winter is the time of dying, effectively. We're actually coming towards the Witch's New Year, which is Samhain in October, which is going to be really, really interesting, because we have a blue moon in there, so we have two full moons like within 2 days of each other, right on actually on Halloween, not on Samhain, because Samhain is like the 21st ish. It goes with the moons, but right on Halloween we have the blue moons, and so that's going to be interesting, like twin moons within a few days of each other when the veil between worlds is the thinnest. And it's interesting too because 20 years ago, that's when I met my DM, and I especially lately, I found that very, very interesting because even in 3D, when he's off in another dimension, I still, I see past it. I think it's one of the things that both impresses and annoys him, is that I know that I've seen the real him, and I know that he's seen the real me, and not, I mean, like the good, the bad, the messy, all that stuff, but the irony is in the synchronicity of it that we met each other when the veil between worlds was the thinnest. Do you recognize something like that with your masculine or feminine? I mean, look at, if it was in the summer, that's often when the veil is the strongest. Is that when you met them? Did they have an extra strong mask, or were they extra passionate, or was it maybe around Beltane when it was all about fertility and Empress energy? Look at the different synchronicities in there. In any case, I do want to get to the cards, and I only have so much room on my phone for doing these videos. But I also wanted to mention today, Jupiter is at a standstill right now. And it started standing still yesterday. It has been retrograde in Capricorn, along with several other signs in Capricorn. It's interesting because for most of the year, we've had most of the Titans in Capricorn. Like currently, Saturn is also in Capricorn and also retrograde. And I believe, yeah, Pluto is in Capricorn. And we had like a major alignment of all of them back when we had the full moon in Cancer while the sun was in Capricorn. It was an interesting theme to come about, especially with 2020 being High Priestess and Emperor energy. It was like, okay, there's something to do with Capricorn, which for me is often the King of Pentacles, and it's the Devil energy, and it's the World card. And so, like, it's like, like, what is with all this Capricorn energy? But Capricorn also, most people don't recognize this, and a dear elder brought this to my attention. I just saw 1414 on the clock. Capricorn is the only sign in the zodiac that actually presents an evolution. Most folks don't recognize that. They think of it as the sea goat, but actually it's not. It's just, it was for one, they're looking at constellations, so it's a glyph, but the deal with it is that it's not a sea goat, it's that it's Capricorn starts out as a fish, much like Pisces. It starts out in the water, the deep, emotional, murky waters, and you have to kind of climb your way out of that. And really, and most Capricorn's life theme, especially, is about having to grow up earlier than most people do. And being a Capricorn myself, yes, that happens. But you have to grow up earlier than most, and you're often restricted and limited at very least until your first Saturn's return when you're approximately 30 years old, and then you climb out and you become an amphibian, then you become a reptile, or well, I don't know. I don't know if you go to reptile, but turn into a mammal, turn into a goat, and then you climb your way to the top. And, slowly but surely. And then, like for me, the image is a goat on like the Fool's Cliff looking out over the sea that it was born in, and recognizing that. And Capricorn is the social architect of the zodiac too, which is really interesting. I mean, if assuming that little tale is true, then Capricorn is one of the signs that is uniquely positioned to recognize the feelings of most of the other signs. I mean, if you look at the evolution of it, that does include fire and air in there too. And so all that Capricorn energy suggests that this year has been about evolving. It's been about reaping what you sow, which actually comes up a lot in the Astro Matrix app too. There's a lot of reaping what you sow energy because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is Big Papa, Big Daddy Karma, and Father Time, and it's both karma is a bitch, and karma is also the most beautiful of goddesses when you have been working on yourself and you stand in your integrity and things like that. But we've seen a lot of like karma, and right now we're seeing, this is why I bring this up, right now we're seeing an emphasis on that. Karma is manifesting even faster, and probably in large part because Saturn has been retrograde, which actually removes a lot of limitations, and I believe it's about to station and then go direct it's either the end of the month or it's next month. But right now we have Jupiter still in Capricorn, but it's standing still today. And starting tomorrow, it's going direct, which means it'll stay in Capricorn and then progress to Aquarius along with Saturn, which will be really interesting too, because Aquarius is like, I think of Aquarius as a different, like, it's both that grandpa who, like, this is the way it's always been, young whippersnappers, but it's also the rebellious teenager. Like, I am going against tradition, and I'm going to go out and put flowers in my hair, and enjoy the sunshine, and sing songs, and have sex in the mud, and, so it's kind of an interesting duality and energy. But we'll expand into that as Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto go in that direction. In any case, with Jupiter standing still today, I find it interesting, especially being called to do a divine masculine and divine feminine reading. And I might make this a two-part depending on the room on my storage. Because Jupiter, when you look at somebody's birth chart, typically Jupiter is the husband placement. So if you identify as masculine and male, that would typically be the way that you are as a husband, or it's like the way that you are, the way that you want to and will be, and the way that it suggests what father wounds and things that you might have. And if you identify as feminine and or female, it can be the type of husband that you are attracted to. And it's different than, somebody said it once, I definitely swear on my channel, but somebody said it once is like that somebody's Mars placement is like a fuck boy, and then Jupiter is husband material. And so you could look at that sometimes, and recognize like the difference between somebody for right now and somebody that is like your life's partner, walks beside a spouse, like a true spiritual spouse, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and that's all about spirituality and exploration and like getting to that point in maturity where you recognize that adulting does not mean being boring and stuff like that. It doesn't. But like, because that it specifically has to do with the husband, with the masculine spouse. I find that very, very interesting when I came across that a few days ago, especially as it lined up, like it started to stand still on 9/11, which was predicted as a pretty powerful day, in especially in terms of changes in the divine masculine collective. And a lot of readers have been predicting divine masculines coming back into union with themselves, and then reaching out to their divine feminines, and communication starting up again. Which, if you look at it, like, look back, like, go and look up when Jupiter went retrograde, which I believe was about 6 months ago. And, if you've been in any sort of contact with your divine masculine or divine feminine, or or you noticed a change in it, or maybe that's when separation happened, or, wherever you are in your journey, that could be because Jupiter went retrograde. And it's interesting that it went retrograde in such a divine masculine sign as Capricorn. Capricorn actually is funny. It's one of the most feminine signs in the zodiac, but King of Pentacles is the step before the Emperor. So it's a lot of, like, little boy learning to be daddy, like, time for daddy to grow up kind of thing. Go sow your wild oats, explore, see the world, learn things, learn karmic lessons, things like that. And that's probably what they've been doing. So, I mean, yeah, there may have been a whole bunch of things that they've done that you could, lay judgment on, but recognize too, though, that with all this Capricorn energy, a lot of these divine masculines had to go through some sort of Capricornian life theme where they had to grow up extra fast when they were younger, so they missed a lot of lessons, and they assumed that that's what life was. A lot of them had parents that were very, like, stop acting like a child, act your age, or grow up, or you gotta worry about adult things before you're adult. Like, many of them didn't really get much of a childhood. And so now, those of you who have especially divine masculines that are acting extra immature, recognize they kind of need that. Like, they're finally in a space to where they can work some stuff out, and C19 has actually really helped provide a situation where they have to, where they are faced with their worst traits. If they've been with a karmic third party, they're very much likely to have been very much like their mothers, or at least have the right qualities to kick up a bunch of mother-father wounds. They probably provided a whole bunch of obstacles, so that masculines have really had to sit and think about their thinking. And we've also got this energy of the Cardinal Grand Cross, which is most of the big major planets squaring off with each other. On top of that, we have Uranus that just went retrograde in Taurus, which will stay until January 14th. And that in particular is, at least for the first half of that, is very much like Mercury retrograde energy. And we're going to hit another Mercury retrograde coming up too. And Aries on 9/9, which was one of the portals that I talked about, it went retrograde in Aries. So it's an exalted sign, and it's retrograde, which is more masculine. Like, that's the Emperor energy, but now going backwards, going back to look at more lessons. I mean, that's like the Emperor in his own castle going back to learn big lessons. And now with Jupiter getting ready to go retrograde also, look at that. We have two divine masculine energies, two Emperor energies going retrograde in the social architect sign of maturity and evolution, and and fatherhood, and stability, because Capricorn is the cardinal earth sign. It's stable, especially emotionally. So I'd imagine that has a lot of themes. But either way, I know a fair amount of you, especially divine femmes, are just feeling flighty in general. Like, if what I recommend is check in with an astrologer. It could be me or anybody, or check in with a reader. And I do my stuff by donation only, so nobody's turned away for lack of funds. Just recognize I got a lot of readings coming in because I'm doing this channel, so I get back to everybody at the time that I can, and when Spirit says it's time. Either way, recognize that there's not always a need to act, and sometimes when we're feeling flighty, it's actually just spirit saying, hey, you got some anxious attachment to work on. That doesn't mean that there's anything to do. Just work on you. Now, I also want to point out, because I forgot about this, this card, the last couple of days keeps finding a way to come out. And like it's flown off the table when I've been sitting outside. Like there'll be no wind, and then suddenly wind will pick up, and it goes this way. And it's done this and this and this and this, but most of the time it's come this way. Now, being that it's a ring, I would assume that masculines, like especially in reverse, that divine masculines are ending commitments. It doesn't have to be an actual marriage, or it could have been something to where that was supposed to be a marriage, or that felt like a marriage, or or they're thinking about it, and others may be thinking about marriage with you, but I think this is really signifying healing the wounds, the mother-father wounds. A fair amount of masculines and feminines had parents who had really rocky relationships and were in and out with others, and they've been you and or divine masculines, divine feminines have been repeating those traumas, and I think that a lot of this astrological energy is coming in to show us that, like how we've been hurt, and because we've been hurt, we've been hurting others in the ways that we got hurt, and really like enlightening that, In any case, I already shuffled this while we were talking, but I want to pull a card for divine masculine, divine feminine here. I'm seeing the rabbit in there a fair amount, which I know came up in a few other readers' energy. Also, if you get a chance to check out, there's a reader called Lotus Goddess. Wow, I just had 3 cards totally pop out. I'm actually not going to take them. I'll put them back, but we have the Knight in reverse, which is interesting. We have Peak, and it's actually was sitting like this, and we have some, and it's funny because it shows jelly beans, and they're all in reverse. So it's like the Knight peaks